Bickley and Marotta Mornings. Arizona Sports. The local sports leader. Bickley Blast.
I have an alternative Mount Rushmore of Valley head coaches and managers. They are the men so affable and so charismatic that I wish they could have stayed at the helm forever. They are Bob Brenly, Bruce Arians, Mike D'Antoni, and yes, Torey Lovullo. Here's how the latter can save his job. Number one, fix the bullpen, obviously. The Diamondbacks bullpen is about to post its worst month in 15 years, dating all the way back to May of 2010. And in that season, A.J. Hinch lost his job 1 month later. That's the precedent Lovullo is trying to avoid. Much of this is just rearranging the deck chairs, but I would strongly encourage fixed roles moving forward, a seventh-inning guy, an eighth-inning guy, and a closer. Number two, like the Suns, the Diamondbacks need internal leadership, a mouthpiece, a strong vocal presence. When I see post-game interviews, I rarely see position players stepping forward with any consistency, but I always see Lovullo absurdly professing the pride he feels for his players. Lovullo must fight his softer tendencies and his sense of loyalty. He gave this team too much rope in spring training, and the D-backs looked very unprepared to start the season. He also leaned on a small militia to determine the opening day starter, and that's the kind of wishy-washy stuff that'll make a team roll its eyes. Number three, stop worrying about insulting players. At this rate, either Eduardo Rodriguez or Zach Gallen must be relocated to a relief role because putting Ryan Nelson back in the bullpen would be the easy and the cowardly thing to do. Number four, move Corbin Carroll to center field to get Randall Grichuk more starts, hopefully to solve the runners in scoring position issue. And finally, seize the moment. The Diamondbacks have the third easiest remaining schedule in baseball, and it is about time they all rally for a manager who always has their back. Because I've got news for all of the Diamondback players. You might not like the new manager nearly as much, and by then, it'll be way too late. All right, today's Bickley Blast brought to you by my great friends at Chapman BMW. Make luxury attainable. Find them online at chapmanbmw.com.
As far as Torey, I think there's probably every year this time or over the next couple of months, 10 to 15 teams in their markets that are going through the same thing and the same dialogue and same rhetoric. It's normal. I think when a team is underperforming or struggling or not playing up to their capabilities, you're going to look to leadership. You're going to look to the manager. And Torey's been through this before. You know, it seems like every other year he goes through it. I remember in 23, we were having these conversations, the three of us. You know, that was a season where we were 19 games over 500, and before we blinked, we were five games below. And I remember a stretch from July 1st to I think the first week of August, we ended up going 7-24. That was in 2023, and we were all every week saying, "Boy, what is wrong with this team? They've lost it. They can't hold it together." So we're going to go through stretches like that, and that was a year that we ended up going to the playoffs and ultimately went to the World Series. So anything can happen. Are we going to go to the playoffs and World Series? Well, of course we hope so. You know, you never know, and it certainly doesn't look like it at this point, but you can. That's my point. And things turn around quickly. But I'll tell you what, the players do care a lot about Torey, and the comment, you know, that Vince, you made, and you and Vic, and it's a good one. You know, it looked like they just weren't playing for their manager or the coaches or the owner or me or the organization or Mike. Sure, but I'd take it, in a different angle and say maybe they're trying too hard.
That was me turning my microphone on. That was Derek Hall, President and CEO of the Diamondbacks, on with us yesterday on the status or the future of Torey Lovullo. And look, Derek always answers the questions. And he's right. The 2023 example is there. And Torey Lovullo has been in this situation frequently during his tenure as the Arizona Diamondbacks manager. But they can't, this team and Torey Lovullo, for his job security, can't absorb many more performances / series like we just saw. To blow the game on Tuesday after being up 6-0, that was kind of par for the course. What we saw on Wednesday following that up in the day game was not par for the course because it was completely lifeless. And I did ask Derek Hall about it. Didn't look like they were playing very hard or stepping up for their manager. We're going to find out now, because I think there was probably a lot of discussions over the last couple of days about the direction of this team and how much these guys do want to step up for their manager.
Mm-hmm.
A couple more performances like that, and I don't know if the Diamondbacks have a choice, because when you repeat a lack of effort like that on a semi-regular basis, it doesn't illustrate belief in the skipper.
So so the advice that I just gave Torey Lovullo in the Blast, and there were many reasons, and it was a little bit longer than normal, but I do feel very strongly about a lot of this. We've had a lot of conversations about the Diamondbacks and how they're kind of sliding into the same kind of constraints in which we dealt with the Phoenix Suns. Waiting. What's wrong with this team? Why can't this team find elevation? Where is the leadership on this team? It did occur to me. Now, doing morning radio, do not get out to as many games and be in that clubhouse as often as I'd like. But I do watch all this stuff on television, and I've talked to some people, and you don't see a ton of position players with any regularity being there after games. Fair or not, it's just what is presented over the television and that kind of thing. And so I would think...
I hadn't even noticed that, but you're right.
Yeah. I mean, and Geraldo Perdomo would seem like a great candidate to be that guy. Mm-hmm. And maybe I'm just speaking from an old school baseball mentality, but back in the day, after every game, there was Gonzo, there was Gracie, there was Matt Williams. You know what I mean? They were all there. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's a different world. Maybe it's a different sport.
Maybe it's the way they've been losing these games. Am I wrong? In that it's largely been kind of late inning blow-ups, and maybe the guys like Perdomo or Carroll don't necessarily have much to do with that. Is that a possibility?
It's a possibility.
Maybe.
But to me, it's all about presenting something and creating a hierarchy and a vibe and an accountability and a responsibility. And I just think that has to change. I think this has happened to Torey before, where he's kind of had to confront his loyalties to players and sticking with players too long. Because Kevin Ginkel the other night in the outing that got him sent to Reno, that's one of those incidents where Torey Lovullo gave Kevin Ginkel a long runway to fail, and fail he did, based on the fact that in the past he's used to getting out of those kind of jams.
Yeah.
But not this year. He hasn't.
We saw that earlier this season with Joe Mantiply. Mm-hmm. Gave him maybe a couple extra appearances that he deserved before they sent him down.
I also think it's fair to ask at this point now, with the decision made on Ginkel, was he ever right physically? I mean, he started.
It's true.
Got a late start, got hurt in spring training, came back. Hasn't out of a couple. There was a couple of instances where he was effective, but for the most part, he doesn't look like himself.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much was never good.
Yeah.
He got won the gink the whole season, and that was when he was debuted. That's how you measure it on the gink meter.
I need you to monitor Kevin Ginkel at Reno and give him the gink treatment anytime he has a sensational outing in Reno.
Okay, I did with Peter O'Brien.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, did you see what Kevin Ginkel did last night? Oh. A couple points on your blast.
Yeah.
When you were reading your bullet point list and you got to number 3 and the first word was stop, I would have bet money you were going to say, stop rubbing your eyes,
Diamondbacks. Right.
And you started it with the premise of the Mount Rushmore of Valley coaches.
That I wish would have never lost their jobs, that nothing ever broke bad for them. Now, it always breaks bad for everyone. That's the nature of sports.
Let's flip this on its ear.
All right.
The opposite of Mount Rushmore would be what? Mount Suckmore? Who would go on that list?
Of coaches that kept their jobs too long here?
Mount Flushmore?
Mount Flushmore?
There you go.
That's good.
That's better. It
I
rhymes.
like that.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good. I pondered putting Dave McGinnis on that list, but Dave McGinnis, for as affable and charismatic as he was, never won anything. Bob Brenly won a World Series.
Yeah. Dave McGinnis was probably the best coach to work with from a media standpoint.
Oh, incredible.
Since I've been doing
incredible.
This.
Yeah.
I don't think they've had a lot of coaches they've kept too long, really.
Maybe not kept. Yeah,
nothing jumps out at least.
I would say Cliff Kingsbury.
Oh, really? You wouldn't say Cliff Kingsbury they kept too long?
I was ready to jump the ship. I'm trying to think who else.
I don't know. I read on social media that you were never critical of Cliff Kingsbury during his whole tenure.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Did somebody really say that?
Yeah. Sucked up to him.
I wouldn't have given him. I wouldn't have given Cliff the extension, but it's hard to say they should have fired him after that season.
Really?
Well, I mean, I don't know if the video clips still exist. It was in the early days of video clips here at Arizona Sports, but when the news came down of Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury getting contract extensions, it was a pretty telling reaction facially from both of us. Well, I think I had my head in my hands.
Listen, I go back to that game against the Rams when let's not go down this. We've spent a lot of time in that realm. We don't need to go back there.
We can visit Mount Rushmore later.
So Diamondbacks, I want to see a different team today. I want to see a team that found its fangs.
Well, they're going to be wearing the Serps outfits.
All right.
Everybody's
Serps
going
up.
Serpin'.
Serpin USA.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.